Good morning. HealthyU on a, I won't say totally sunny Tuesday morning. It's kind of cloudy, but it's good. Have we had the ice? We've got a little ice this morning, and that's okay. I think, Elisa, that we have had a really nice winter so far. I know a little ice, a little coldness, a little snow, but it's been pretty nice. What do you think?
It's Missouri, and it's wintertime. So what do you expect?
And here is the host of the show,
Dr. Randy
He just walked in. It's kind of like my house. He walks in unexpectedly. You just never know. It's just like a box of chocolates.
How you doing today, guys?
Know.
Everyone good after the Valentine's Day weekend? Yes. Is the chocolate still?
I'm better since you arrived.
Yes.
I'm better since you arrived.
We're all better since you arrived. Yes.
On the boards.
We're all better.
It's the wonders of live radio.
Yeah, you love it.
I'm still trying to recover from the chocolate. You gave me a box of chocolate and I ate it. And
you didn't eat the whole box. Come on, don't say you did not.
No,
you had a couple pieces. Hey, it's not like the old days.
We're going to be talking with a special guest today who's going to talk to us about getting our act together.
Oh, my goodness.
What was probably a hedonistic and
probably it was.
Valentine's Day weekend for all of you. I hope so. Once in a while, you need to have one of those, right?
Yes.
And Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn is going to join us later on how to prevent and reverse heart disease. And I think on the heels of Dr. Nissenbaum's wonderful visit with us last week, I think it'll be really fascinating to hear his take on it. And I think we're going to hear some common threads that we've heard before.
And speaking of Dr. Nissenbaum, he is offering a free heart healthy luncheon at Scotland County Hospital in observance of National Heart Health Month, which is February, the love month. It'll be Thursday, February 25th at 12 noon in our library conference room. We already have 35 signed up for this. It is free of charge.
Good.
Wow.
And we
surprised.
have a capacity of, there is limited seating just because of our room size. And Blessing Physician Services is sponsoring the lunch, and a local restaurant, the Sweet Treats, will provide a heart healthy lunch for us. And so we do need folks to call and sign up for that. That is February 25th. At 12 noon in our library conference room, which is in parking lot B, just catty corner from Memphis Medical Services. And his topic is, if you heard him last year, he did the Life Extensions course. He is doing Life Extension Course 2, More Secrets to a Long Life. Whoa. He has like 3 days worth of information. And so we're splitting it into 3 different years.
The question is, did you have to have graduated the first course and extended your life?
No.
Did you take a test?
No
test.
Well, I guess if you can attend, that means you were successful in extending your life.
That's right. And
from Life Extension 1 to 2.
To 2. And
But there's no prerequisite.
No,
Okay.
no, and it's free and open to the community, anybody in the surrounding area. We do need you to call, though, because it is limited seating. And part of the treat is that he will perform a little bit of a concert on his piano, because he was a concert pianist in New York as a child and as a young adult and into his adulthood during medical school. And so he does bring his beautiful electric piano and gives us a little bit of Liberace style. Yeah, piano. So I know Helene has attended his seminars in the past.
Really good. Oh, he's just a fountain of knowledge.
And a lot of our medical staff can pop in for just a little bit and hear and then leave. And so if it draws the medical staff over their lunch hour, it's pretty important. Let me just put it that way.
And for those of you who remember the videos, or maybe saw Liberace live, or Dino down in Branson, or one of the many flourish-filled piano performances that you may have seen over the years, that's the kind of quality he brings to.
But he has
very,
the
very
same
quality piano.
passion for cardiology that he does for his music. So the passion just flows through. You can't help it.
Patient satisfaction with him. I mean, he is really, really good.
Yeah, very good.
He is really good. So
good.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun. And as we roll through Heart Month, of course, we're going to be featuring a lot of heart-healthy stuff. And I have to brag on my... Can I talk about a heart-healthy dinner I had late last night that my wonderful wife, Helene, produced? She does this frequently. I think I've talked about her, the pleasing clouds of puffy protein called poached cod. Okay. She does. But for those of you who are going, ew, fish, and I get this probably 9 out of 10 patients that I advise to eat more fish. It doesn't taste like fish. It doesn't taste like chicken. It doesn't taste like, I don't know what it just tastes like a pure protein puff of goodness.
Okay.
It's so, but
As you would say, but what makes it very special is this wonderful thing that you make. It's a
So
sauce. It's
red
a orange-red sauce.
red pepper coulis. Yes.
It
Yes.
is unbelievable. And
Red pepper coulis. That
Yes.
sounds like a mixed drink or a
No,
smoothie.
no.
what you need to do is sometime you need to have a little wellness event up at the hospital where you feature that particular dish, because
Yes.
that is unbelievable. For those of you who don't like fish, but would be willing to just
Now-
tiptoe onto the fish ice, or maybe the ice fish,
And
it'd be a great way to do it.
It's really
Yeah.
interesting how it's so simple. Basically, bouillon, vegetable bouillon, or vegetable broth, and you throw everything but the kitchen sink. You put in a peeled carrot, a half an onion, a half a garlic, a couple sprigs of parsley, a little bit of rosemary, dried rosemary, and you let that boil for just a minute and take it off the stove, and you put the fish. It doesn't have to be cod. I use cod because cod tends to lend to more of it's
But it's so mild.
and then you put the cod in that broth and put the lid on for a couple minutes, and it's cooked.
And when you eat this, you
It's-
don't feel like you. And we had some grain. What kind of grain did you have? last
Freekeh.
night?
All right.
It
Freekeh.
was very, very good. And it was super good. And so we're going to ask Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn whether or not he would approve of this dish or not. Okay, because he wrote the book Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. I doubt that he will, but I may have to argue with him because it's one of those dishes that I would eat. And after all, it's sort of like you got to be able to cope with it. But we'll see. He wrote a great book called the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease.
And he's got the science to prove it.
And
Big
yeah,
time.
and
20
he's
year
really behind that.
20
so
year
when we
study.
come back on HealthyU, we will talk with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease Diet, the revolutionary scientifically proven nutrition.
It's a good-looking book.
Clinic, yeah. And it looks like he follows his own advice. Handsome guy, right?
yes.
So he must be in great shape because he eats his diet. And we'll talk about that. And
Hey,
gonna
don't
ask him
plan
if the,
anything.
Welcome back, 20 after the hour on HealthyU on this third week, right, of National Heart Month. And we roll along in this month highlighting heart disease and its avoidance, its prevention, its coping with it, and maybe reversing it. That was a notion that just a few years ago, I would say a decade or so ago, was really not even in the popular literature, although people like Dr. Dean Ornish, who first showed that you could reverse that, popularized it. And now joining us is Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, author of the new book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, and none other than Dean Ornish. Dr. Esselstyn said this about you: pioneering research demonstrating that the progression of even severe coronary heart disease can often be reversed by making comprehensive changes in diet and lifestyle. Welcome to HealthyU.
Yes, this is Dr. Esselstyn.
Oh, thank you for being with us, Dr. Esselstyn. So the book was born of a revolutionary 20-year study first published in the American Journal of Cardiology. Let's talk about that first of all, in terms of the impetus and the research basis on your diet.
Well, I think where we sort of took our lead was when you look at the fact that there are millions of people today, as we speak, on the planet who will never, ever have cardiovascular disease. They are who? They're the Okinawans, the Papua Highlanders, the rural Chinese, Central Africa, and the Tarahumara Indians in northern Mexico. What's the common denominator? They all thrive on whole food, plant-based nutrition. And so in 1985, we took this to heart, and with a small group of patients who were seriously ill with heart disease, we had them transition from the typical Western diet to whole food, plant-based nutrition. And that was sort of the motivation behind this, and it has been very exciting as a journey.
Well, Dr. Esselstyn, I was just wondering, since the beginning of time, the paleo diet you hear about, and I'm not a proponent of that, but our beginnings were as an omnivore. What I've looked through your diet, and the recipes look amazing. But how do you get a complete diet? I'm guessing. I'm asking. There's not fats allowed. There's not as far as protein, nothing with a mother or a face. No dairy. How do you get that complete protein?
very interesting that, have you ever heard of anybody who was whole food plant-based nutrition who went to an emergency room and said, my gracious, help me out. I'm protein deficient. Let's be clear about this.
Okay.
All the foods that are recommended in whole food plant-based nutrition are loaded with protein. There is protein in grain. There is protein in beans. There's protein in vegetables. You're not going to be protein deficient. As a matter of fact, increasingly we find that there are professional athletes who recognize that their stamina is improved with whole food plant-based nutrition. Their recovery time is improved. And at the same time, they have overall better performance. Why is the strongest man on the planet whole food plant-based nutrition? A man by the name of Bobudian from Germany. So you're not going to have any deficiencies with this. Whole protein is plant protein. When you're eating animal protein, that's what clearly exposes us to cancer and heart disease.
That's interesting. You keep riffing, and I'm thankful for that, on the whole food plant-based. Whole food, whole food. That is the first adjectival modifier of your food program. Tell us more about that and how harmful processed foods are.
Well, if we take, for example, an area where all experts in cardiovascular disease would agree, is that it is when we injure and destroy the life jacket and the guardian of our blood vessels that we get ourselves into trouble. What is the life jacket and the guardian of our blood vessel? It's the delicate innermost lining of the artery that has a name. It's called the endothelium.
Mm-hmm.
And the endothelium manufactures an absolutely magic molecule of gas, nitric oxide, which really has wonderful functions that protect all of our vasculature. For instance, nitric oxide keeps all the cellular elements within our bloodstream flowing smoothly like Teflon rather than Velcro. Keeps things from ever getting sticky. Number two, nitric oxide is the strongest blood vessel dilator in the body. When you climb stairs, the arteries to your heart, the arteries to your legs, they widen, they dilate. That's nitric oxide. Number three, nitric oxide protects the wall of your artery from becoming thickened, stiff, or inflamed. Protects you from getting high blood pressure or hypertension. Number four, and this is absolutely key, an adequate, safe amount of nitric oxide protects you from ever developing blockages or plaque. So literally, everybody on the planet who has cardiovascular disease has their disease because they have so sufficiently trashed, destroyed, and injured and compromised the capacity of their endothelial cells to make nitric oxide. They simply don't have enough to protect themselves from developing plaque and heart disease. Because if the truth be known, coronary artery heart disease or heart attacks is nothing more than a toothless paper tiger that need never, ever exist. It is a completely benign foodborne illness. What are the foods that injure every time we eat them? They are any oil, olive oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, palm oil, oil in a cracker, oil in a piece of bread, oil in a salad dressing. Oil will injure the endothelial cell, as does anything with a mother or a face, meat, fish, chicken, fowl, turkey, and anything that's dairy, milk, cream, butter, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt. Any excesses of sweets such as maple syrup, molasses, and honey. And there you got it.
Now, Dr. Esselstyn, Elisa Kiger, our executive producer and my very good friend, is sitting here like stabbing her heart, doing a pantomime as she hears you say this, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, Elisa, but it sounds like, where would the joy be without all of those good things that we enjoy?
Wait, now think about what you've just said. Think about where would the joy be? Where would the joy be? I don't have to have a stroke. Where would the joy be? I don't have to have a heart attack. Where would the joy be? I don't get erectile dysfunction. Where would the joy be? I'm not getting dementia.
Yeah.
You're right.
Come on, this is
no, I agree.
You're right.
There's
You're
no
right.
doubt about that.
I've always heard, I've read some scientific literature about sugar, and I was reading some of your desserts, but I was always thinking sugar was the bad guy. I've always been a proponent of really good oils, the monounsaturated fats, the omega-3 fatty acids, like EPA, DHA, fish oil, but the sugar had something to do with the high cholesterol. Too much of that bad sugar. Is there something to that? What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think you want to. Nobody wants you to go overboard on sugar at all. I think I made it very clear.
Okay.
That you got to be careful of maple syrup, molasses, and honey. And obviously, you don't want to use a lot of sugar because sugar can be harmful to the endothelial cells. Yeah.
So where do we, if oils, I'm looking at the rules on page 120 of your book, and it says, do not eat meat, do not eat chicken, even white meat, do not eat fish, do not eat any dairy products, no eggs, no oil at all.
Right.
So where, but yet our cell membranes, you know this so well, being a renowned surgeon, endocrine surgeon. I mean, our cell membranes are made up of fats and
No question.
So where are we getting our oils from?
Every single cell membrane in the body is made of cholesterol. And where do you suppose that all the people who are plant-based, the millions that I mentioned earlier, where do they get their cholesterol? They make it from their liver. Your liver will make the cholesterol that you need. Now, our diet is certainly not a no-fat diet. It is not any added fat. We don't want you to pour olive oil on your food that is going to injure your endothelial cells. But there is fat in grain. There is fat in beans. There is fat in vegetables.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Well, I looked through your book, and you were saying how we were, at one point, 250 was the overall cholesterol was normal, and now that's obviously been debunked. What do you, and you even talked about the Framingham Heart Study of 150 to 200. You still have people having heart disease with that. What do you recommend for healthy cholesterol levels?
Well, I think that what we want, the take-home message is this. No number has ever given you a heart attack. What has given you a heart attack is if you have so sufficiently trashed and injured your endothelial cells that you don't have enough nitric oxide left to protect yourself. Now, ideally, there is such great literature on this that those who have been able to keep or have naturally a cholesterol of 150 and less are extremely unlikely, historically in the literature, to ever develop cardiovascular disease. On the other hand, we know that there will be people whose liver simply will make more cholesterol than 150 milligrams per deciliter. So if you end up with a 160 or 170 or 180, and at the same time you are not eating anything that is going to in any way modify or injure your endothelial fortress, then even if your artery have a few extra molecules of cholesterol coursing through it, it is not going to injure an artery where there is an intact, healthy endothelium.
I wonder if you can hang with us, Dr. Esselstyn, and talk with a little bit about the practicality of this, because it is, I think, a rude awakening for many people, especially here in Northeast Missouri, where cattle are king and soybeans line the fields, and certainly this is a radical change for many people. Maybe we can talk about, again, emphasizing the why, looking at what this actually can impact in terms of some of those beautiful angiograms in the book, looking at folks' coronary arteries and the actual results that people can see. And then maybe talking about whether, basically a stop one and start the next day, just a cold wall approach is the way to go, or whether we need to sort of take baby steps along the way. Can we talk about that when we come back?
Well, I'd be delighted.
Let's do that. Okay, Dr. Russell Esselstyn joins us now, or Caldwell Esselstyn, sorry about that. And the revolutionary, scientifically proven nutrition-based cure. You're talking to an Olympic rower, folks, a gold medalist in rowing, and also the Bronze Star as an Army surgeon in Vietnam, 35 years at the Cleveland Clinic. Lots of great material ahead as we continue our conversation with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Jr., MD, on HealthyU right after these messages.
Good morning and welcome back. This is HealthyU on KMEM 100.5. We have Dr. Randy Tobler, our host, and the lovely Dr. Helene Tobler, our co-host this morning, and our guest that has been kind enough to join us today on the long lines is our friend, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and he is the author of the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, a revolutionary, scientifically proven, nutrition-based cure. And he is speaking directly to me and stepping on my toes, like a good preacher should do.
So, Dr. Esselstyn, let's say that someone has just been diagnosed with coronary artery disease. They had a stress test, they had a cath, and they've got some serious blockage in their arteries. Or they've had a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. Or they've had a stroke. Or they've had the ultrasound on their arteries in their neck and their carotids are partly blocked. What's the hope? I mean, a lot of people, I think, at that point figure, man, I'm going to load up on my Lipitor, and I'm going to get my blood pressure controlled, and I'm going to do all the traditional things my traditional doctor tells me to do, but I still got to have my steak and potatoes and my vinegar and oil salad dressing. What say you? What changes, if the commitment is made, can these people make in their arterial health?
Well, that's fine if you want to have a disease progression, because the treatments that you've mentioned, a pill for your high blood pressure and taking Lipitor, has never been shown to treat the causation of the illness. Mm-hmm. In other words, the causation of the illness is the fact that you have so depleted yourself of nitric oxide. That stands. That's still there. And the fact that you're taking a cholesterol-lowering drug really is not going to does not stop the disease. So what I would say in that situation is, look, give somebody an opportunity to fully get the education, knowledge, and understanding and awareness of the fact that they themselves can be empowered as the locus of control to halt and reverse their disease. They don't have to do it with a pill. They're not going to get it done with a stent or a bypass, because the seismic revolution in health, in cardiovascular disease, and for that matter, in 75% of chronic illness, the seismic revolution in health in this country is going to come from what? Never a pill, a stent, or a bypass. It's going to come from giving the patient the knowledge and the information, how they can be empowered to eat in a way that they don't have to have chronic illness. They don't have to have obesity. They don't have to have hypertension. They don't have to have diabetes. They don't have to have strokes and heart attacks and Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and the whole host of these other diseases that all literally fall under the same rubric and can be actually prevented and treated.
Well, Dr. Esselstyn, can we just start with baby steps? Somebody that really wants to be heart healthy, maybe, yeah. I mean, I thought I was being heart healthy. I'll be honest. I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I've been on the oil page, actually. EPA DHA I thought was an anti-inflammatory. It's in fish oil. But I totally respect what you're doing. So how could I start out just going more the way that what you're saying for a total reversal of heart disease? Just baby steps to begin with.
Well, that's where I will disagree with you, because what you're saying here's what baby steps mean. Baby steps mean that perhaps just on the weekends you'll continue to have your steak, and you'll have your ice cream, and you'll have your cheese. So if you do that on the weekends, that means you already have heart disease, let's say. That means now 104 days out of 365, you are still continuing to trash and injure your endothelial cells. What you want to do is to stop and reverse this disease. You stop every single one of those food items that I mentioned that are going to injure the endothelial cell. And also, at the same time, that's so effective, and this has been shown by the Menel Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia, that it takes about 8 to 12 weeks to downregulate your fat receptor. And if you continue to eat this horrible Western diet on the weekends, you do not downregulate your fat receptor. Therefore, the craving remains for you to eat these terrible foods that have been killing you.
Okay.
Tell us about the one of the things, because we're busting a lot of myths here. I mean, we've talked with Dan Buettner in the last year and of blue zones, and he cited, I think maybe there would be an intersection with his centenarian populations across the globe with some of those that you mentioned earlier. And I think of the Sicilian sheep herders, wasn't it?
Yes.
In Sardinia, Italy.
That once in once a week they have the little suckling pig dinner. That they have their meat dinner. He maintains lifestyle, socialization, is all part of a wonderful fabric for longevity. And they do eat small portions of meat, but again, it's largely a plant-based diet. Is this a continuum? And based on your genetics, you can get by with a little meat in some cases, or is it absolutely an all or nothing proposition?
No, I'm sure that there's, for instance, there are nations like the Okinawans who will occasionally have a ceremonial fish. Apparently in Sicily, maybe it was the occasional ceremonial quick pork. But the majority of the time, there are actually, if you study blue zones carefully, the common denominator that Buettner refers to is the fact that these people the unanimity of the finding in the blue zones is that these people basically thrive on whole food, plant-based nutrition. As a delicacy, on occasion, they'll have some meat. But that's not America. I mean, you think, for instance, right now, you told me earlier about Missouri and all the cattle they raise there. What do you suppose would happen to the health in Missouri if they weren't eating those cattle?
I know the truth, but again, there's a difference between even grain-fed and grass-fed or grass-only fed.
Well,
cattle,
no, that's
too.
a question of whether you want to be shot or hung.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There is a man who stands resolute.
I just want to be sure that there's no doubt.
I got to tell you, and listen, I am as much of a scientist as you. I attended a pretty good place myself, maybe not as prestigious as the Cleveland Clinic. I get it. It's just, Dr. Esselstyn, after a long day of coping with my electronic medical record and reporting to the government and compliance, man, my wife made a wonderful poached cod with a coulis of red pepper last night, and it was a wonderful thing with some Africa. Wasn't it Africa that we had?
So you celebrated your tremendous work day with the destruction of some endothelium.
Oh, you're tough. You're tough.
But
why would you want to do that?
One thing you did approve of,
If you're a scientist, why don't you find that there is a delicious vegetable dinner your wife can make that will enhance your endothelial cells.
There you go.
From
I will tell you, though, on page 71 of your book, all of you out there, folks, will find that Dr. Esselstyn is not the party pooper totally that you think he might be, because here he says that alcohol is just fine in moderation. Woohoo!
And as a cattle farmer, I want to answer his question. What would happen if all of Missouri quit eating beef? As a cattle farmer, what would happen is we would all shoot ourselves or hang ourselves because the bottom of the market would fall out like back in the Depression in the 30s, and we would all, not have a livelihood.
Speaking of cattle and of meat, I mean, let's think about this too. What about, help me here, honey, the dentist who did the research on African populations.
Right.
And dairy and so forth.
Right. Weston Price. Dr. Weston Price.
Isn't there evidence, though, in our evolutionary history, Dr. Esselstyn, and others, that there were, the men went out and killed the woolly mammoth once in a while, and they had a little meat, and if it weren't for infectious disease.
No question that when you think of the fact that people were seeking this survival.
And that's what they had to do.
How many of the people killing the woolly mammoth lived beyond the age of 20 or 25?
Yeah, infectious disease got them.
That's true.
Listen,
Right.
if that's your goal, then go after the woolly mammoth.
Well, let me ask you something else, because I have a speculation that your next book would be with almost the same text, but some different data. I mean, the same content, but with different supporting data. Could be I'm not going to say reverse, but prevent cancer with the same diet. True or false?
No, there's no question that
Yes.
we haven't written about that because it hasn't been the specific study of our focus of our research. But there's clear evidence that, for instance, if you will look at the rates of breast cancer in many of the other cultures, especially those that are plant-based, it'll be 30 to 40 times less frequent than in the United States. And when the Japanese women would migrate to the United States, by the second and third generation, still Japanese American, they now had the same rate of breast cancer as their Caucasian counterpart. Perhaps an even more powerful was cancer of the prostate. In 1958, in the entire nation of Japan, how many autopsy-proven deaths were there from cancer of the prostate? 18. By 78, 20 years later, they were up to 137, which still pales in comparison to the 28,000 who will die of prostate cancer in the United States this year.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Esselstyn, I still have to go back to, I hope you'll forgive me, because I actually do talks on this. I basically do talks about health and eating, and I show pictures of the food that I've made. EPA, DHA, fish oil, wild-caught salmon, I've always thought that was a non-inflammatory, and that helps your heart.
So why would you want fish fat? I mean, if you look seriously at the hard data on the Eskimos, they have a horrible, horrible health history in existence. And they're loaded with atherosclerotic disease, and they thrive on fish, especially the salmon. Yeah, it doesn't protect. And even the fish oil nonsense. There were a few studies in the early 90s that suggested this was beneficial. Now, even the Cleveland Clinic heart letter clearly states that fish oil is worthless in heart disease. Yeah, you're going to get your essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3, where? From food. Although if you want an extra, you can take some chia seeds or some flaxseed meal on your cereal, you're covered fine. Have you ever heard of anybody coming into the emergency room saying, "My God, help me out, I'm omega-3 deficient"?
You have that down to a science. That's funny.
I tell you. Well, I tell you,
I've been there before.
Yes. Yes.
it's really been a delight talking with you. And folks,
bet.
I know while this sounds, I think, let's be fair, this sounds radical. This sounds revolutionary. But this is also from a gentleman who is an endocrine surgeon, former president of the American Association of Endocrine Surgeons. Those are among the most esteemed in the surgical profession. This is from an Olympic gold medalist in rowing, a Bronze Star recipient in Vietnam, and a gentleman who has done tons of looking at the cold, hard facts and clearly has a bit of willpower. And clearly it takes a bit of willpower to do this. But if you're willing and able, I would bet this will extend your life and in the process increase its quality as well. And I couldn't commend it to you more. I'm not saying we're all going to get there tomorrow. I'm still going to have my pleasing protein puff of cod now and then, but I think even I may do a little change here. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, thank you so much. When we're up in Cleveland, you know what? I'm going to maybe contact you sometime when we're up there, and I'd like to take you and your wife out to dinner and have your favorite chef cook us one of these meals.
Well, I would hope that you and your friend, your associate, who's the health coach.
That's my wife.
That's his lovely wife, Dr. Helene Tobler.
Think, instead of having some degree of confusion, you're welcome to come as my guest to the intensive counseling seminar that I conduct once a month at the Cleveland Clinic Wellness Institute.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
I think that would be kind of fun for both of us.
Well, I think we'd like to do that, and I'll take you up on that. Hey, thank you so much, and the best on
Dr.
this book.
Esselstyn.
Again, folks, the book is Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn, Jr., M.D., and again, endorsed by many, many in the field who get it and who know what it can do. Thanks so much. You have a great rest of your day, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Quite convincing, ladies and gentlemen.
So if you want to totally reverse, that's his whole point. He even points to a study of the Mediterranean diet where it was not totally reversed.
And I got to tell you, looking at some of the recipes here, confetti twice-baked potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes, oat or non-fat soy milk, frozen corn, chopped onions, bell peppers,
I'm a
garlic
fan of
granules,
vegetables.
chopped
You
fresh
know
garlic
that.
pepper. I think we try it this evening,
Yes.
huh?
Yes.
Page 71. Alcohol in moderation is okay. When you go cold turkey on this, you may need more.
You may end up in the ER with the quivers and shakes.
Whatever you do when you go to Dr. Esselstyn's ER, don't say, "My God, I don't have enough fish oil
or protein."
We'll be back and talk a little bit more on your health on HealthyU. Stay right there. That's inspirational. It really is. And if you look at the pictures in the book, here, folks, snuggle up to the radio.
It is true.
And take a look at this picture. Here, I'll just describe it to you. Just snuggle up to the radio speakers. And in Dr. Esselstyn's book, I'm looking at the picture of the left anterior descending artery, which is a main tributary of the heart muscle in the front. It's one that big heart attacks happen in. and I'm looking at a blockage that's probably 80% blocked on November 1996, November 27th, 1996 of this individual. 3 years later, less than 3 years later, July 22nd, here, snuggle up to the mic, to the speaker.
I'm snuggling.
I wish
I'm
I wish I had a video
Visualize
of you
this.
in your
Snuggling.
book.
Visualize this, and you'll see all of a sudden this artery has a nice, smooth trajectory, and it is open where it was partially closed before. Now, what's interesting is, and I didn't challenge him on this, he's a nice fellow. This was after
brilliant,
32
Yeah, it's
months.
best if we don't challenge our
This was
guests.
after-
He's
well,
quite
I
the-
do-
he's
but I
quite
did
the
challenge-
brilliant
we
guy,
challenged
too,
him a
yes.
little. 32 months of a plant-based diet without cholesterol-lowering medications showing profound infusion. That was without. Now, some of the other pictures in the book are with the cholesterol-lowering medication.
Okay.
So,
And
but
he's
I
strictly.
have no doubt. Dean Ornish has shown.
No.
But now that was
Okay.
with a 7% fat diet. And I don't know whether, I think
This
Ornish
is-
does allow some oils. But
No fats, no oils.
But, I
And
mean,
he
this is-
says you're going to go through with withdrawal.
he says after 3 months you have
then
no
you'll be
cravings
fine.
for
You have no
fats.
cravings for fats. Okay, here's my problem. Then, if you have no cravings for fat, something else take on it. Cravings for sugar. I mean, something else is going to balance on the other side. Well, I mean, he is okay with having some sugar, and now that's the other side of it. Randy, I got to ask you this. I mean, I'm a little upset about this. Okay, because this is it's good, but okay. So what about the low fats diets in the old days? What about them? You know, when we did fake cheese, you know,
Well,
that
the
was
low-fat
processed.
diets, I think, have
That was
absolutely
processed.
been
Okay.
when they're defined as they were in the 90s, which means replace them with processed carbohydrates and strange
scientific
texturing things
Okay.
that you
Chemicals.
can't pronounce
So
the
that
name
was-
of, right?
Those were
That's
fake.
the problem.
Okay,
right?
that's what the difference was. Okay, I
But
got
let's
it.
also be realistic about this, and I think there's no doubt that there in all things in life, there's better. There's
Good,
worse,
better,
good, better,
best.
and best, right? And I think that it's always better to eat more plants than animals.
Yes.
I don't think anyone
You're
would
right,
disagree
right.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
On the other hand, I often bargain with my patients to just cut their smoking down if they're pregnant as a first goal from a pack a day to a half a pack a day. You have to live where people are at. This is a Christian ethos, right? You meet people where they're at, and you don't beat them over the head if you want to witness to them, right? Generally, that's not very effective, at least in my experience. And you heard the chuckle there, and you heard the challenge, and I think he's a good sport about things.
Right,
And
right.
he's no idiot. This guy is
brilliant.
brilliant. And Dr. Esselstyn clearly must acknowledge that you're better off to eat a pleasing protein puff of cod once a week than a fatty ribeye every night.
Right.
I'm sure I could get him to admit that over a glass of scotch, which he mentions on page 71.
But his whole point, and it's a good point. If you want total reversal, you embrace this diet, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the deal. And the little baby steps, like he said, if you're just baby stepping it and doing the vegetable thing during the week and then on weekends eating sausage and cheese, not good.
And don't you think that people come to a conclusion? They finally would look at this, and there's probably people in the audience now sitting there. Probably maybe one or two of you out there now are asking yourself this question. I know rationally that the left side of my brain, the rational side, is telling me that I need to do this because my doctor has told me I have some coronary artery disease. And if I did this, I would live longer to see my grandkids have kids. And I'd be able to walk that extra mile a day that I presently can't without getting pains in my arteries and my legs. And I know that would happen. But I've decided that I enjoy eating and I enjoy the flavor of the fatty ribeye with the twice-baked potato better. And you know what? We're gonna have to go to Cleveland. Take him
Yes,
up
you
on
are.
that.
Okay.
I thought about
We're
that.
going to do
Okay,
that.
you
And
do.
I want to
I'll
challenge.
cover the show for
and
you.
I'll bet that he has a man of enough integrity to say,
Yes.
you know what? I acknowledge that. That's your choice. But don't tell me that you can't make a difference if heart disease and longevity and, yes, quality of life are important
Yes.
to you. The exciting news about this, though, is, too, that, we're talking reversal of heart disease. This was when I was in med school and even as a young attending back in the late 80s and early 90s. This was unheard of.
Yeah.
Once you had it, it was like a deer
Downhill.
hit your bumper and it's there. And
You're
you
done.
you either get a new car or,
So you
know
take
what I
drugs
mean?
to maintain it. Maintain
and you
someone
try
else.
to retard the progression. We're talking about reversal of Heart disease. And by the way, if it's affecting your coronary arteries this way, it's going to affect your cerebral arteries, your carotid arteries. For those of you who have a problem with claudication, I'm sorry, technical term there, the legs and your arteries are the arteries in your legs are blocked, and you have to sit down after you walk for a while because it hurts. Those arteries too. I mean, this is truly revolutionary stuff. This is life-changing stuff.
And it is willpower to the nth degree.
From an Olympic medalist rower, surgeon in Vietnam, bronze medalist, and the president of the endocrine surgeons.
You bet.
Just a wee bit of willpower there, right? Well, I hope that helped y'all, and it helped me. I think it's inspirational, and even if you take a little bit of it to heart, pun intended, it would be very informative and wise of you to do that. Hey, thanks for joining us this day on HealthyU. We're going to visit Dr. Esselstyn at his clinic.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'll cover the show.
And, we'll
both of us
tell you about the revelations. Maybe we could bring him out here to speak. Of course, he'd have to come armed. For Dr. Helene, for Elisa, who's still cringing, and for me, Dr. Randy Tolber. Thanks for being with us. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week. Remember to be well, share it with someone you love, and don't eat so much meat. We'll see you next time.